Good evening and welcome to the City of Burnside Council meeting of February the 27th, 2024. May the decisions we make tonight take into consideration our community's needs, considering our diversity, being inclusive and weighing up the varied wants of our ratepayers and residents of all ages. Please be respectful of what each councillor has to say. We will not always agree with what is being said, but you will all have the opportunity to be heard. Before we commence, please turn off your mobile phones or place them on silent if you've not done so already, as they're not to be used during the meeting. Please stand if you are able and remain silent during acknowledgements. We acknowledge the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine and the Middle East. Finally, we seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. This is a reminder to use your microphone to register your intent to enter the debate and wait till you've been asked to speak, acknowledging the chair appropriately and keeping to the 3-minute time limit. Please turn off your microphone when you finish speaking and listen to each speaker without interruption. Now to the agenda. As I go through reports, please indicate your desire to withdraw them. No, not just yet. We've got to go through absences, and we have one apology from Councillor Henschke this evening. And declaration, I will make a general declaration of interest in relation to 13.4, but I will be staying in the room and, if necessary, voting. Confirmation of minutes. I seek. Sorry? Oh, sorry, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I need to declare a material conflict of interest on item 11.1. As the firm I work for manufactures solar panels engineered for Australian conditions at the Australian Centre of Excellence for Advanced Photovoltaics at Mawson Lakes, I will leave the chamber.
Thank you. Now I seek someone to confirm the minutes, assuming there are no further declarations. And Councillor Wilkins, you're moving motion? Minutes. And Councillor Zing, you're seconding. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Adjourned business, there is none. Public presentations, there are no presentations. No public question time questions, no presentations, but there is one deputation, and the deputation comes from Ms. Carly McGregor. If you'd like to come to the table here in the middle, Ms. McGregor, and state your name and the suburb you live in. And you have also brought someone with you you can introduce when you, once you sit down, and then I'll turn my mic off and your microphone will be yours, and the time, 5 minutes, starts when you start speaking.
Good evening, esteemed councillors. My name is Carly McGregor and I live in Kensington Gardens. I have today with me Dr. Nicola Cranwell, who also lives in Burnside Council in McGill. We're grateful for the opportunity to address council regarding the unfortunate instances of off-leash dog harassment and attacks on children and families during drop-off and pick-up times around Kensington Gardens preschool. I would like to emphasise that our intention is not to advocate for a blanket transition of the entire Kensington Gardens Reserve into an on-leash zone. We too appreciate and value the freedom that dogs enjoy in most of the areas of the reserve. Our plea and concerns are centred on prioritising the safety of children during the preschool's drop-off and pick-up times. Dr. Nicola Cranwell, who I said is also present here this evening, is a medical professional, mother, Burnside Council resident and concerned citizen, has first-hand experience with victims of dog attacks and has been deeply troubled by the frequency of unleashed dogs in close proximity to the preschool during these times. We can all agree that good owners lead to good dogs and that education is important in creating a community of good owners. We also know that young children are the most vulnerable when it comes to dog bites. Incidents of dog harassment can arise in any location where off-leash dogs and children frequently intersect. A quote from the Royal Children's Hospital: "Many dog bites occur when children are playing around dogs. Their high-pitched noise and uncoordinated attempts at showing affection may cause the dog to feel threatened, and it may act defensively or trigger a chase response." And from the Dog and Cat Board, Good Dogs and Bad Days campaign, which I observed the banners in the Burnside Council foyer showing just how confronting the consequences of dog attacks can be, the campaign states, "It is an offence for a dog to attack, harass or chase people or pets. Dogs are not usually deliberately aggressive. This is often a response to fear, perceived threats or behaviours caused by their environment or people around them." Both of these sources indicate that the interaction between dogs and children must be managed effectively. Good design and management of a dog park or off-leash area plays an important role in managing the interactions between children and dogs. Kensington Gardens Preschool stands out as a unique site in terms of its geographical location within a reserve and where the convergence of children and dogs during specific times is notably high. Dog and Cat Management Board guidelines suggest that a good location for a dog park or off-leash area should include an important assessment of the proximity to compatible uses and activities of other community facilities. In these circumstances, it is important that adequate measures be in place to minimise potential conflict. We have noted your proactive measures in signage and resolutions to Bylaw 5 implemented for Hazelwood Park Cafe, Tusmore Wading Pool and the Kensington Gardens Reserve Adventure Playground, also located within the same reserve as the preschool. However, a similar concentration of children and activity at specific times during the week around the preschool are not protected under the bylaw. Considering that Kensington Gardens Preschool is a public preschool, it is only fair and common sense that these children and families are afforded the same level of safety and protection from dog harassment. The children, families and staff of Kensington Gardens Preschool don't have a choice in entering a dog off-leash zone when they step foot onto the reserve, as this is the only way to access the preschool. I would also like to express my support of the Kensington Gardens Reserve wetland and biodiversity areas being protected from dog and cat activity. My understanding is that it is the intention of Burnside Council to consult the community about dogs on leash in the wetland area, so as ducks and other fauna are protected on leash by on-leash requirements. Yet here we are, the community, asking you to consider a precedented resolution to a bylaw for the protection of our children. Thank you. Yeah, no, I read it in the thing. Thank you. While we are grateful that there have been no severe incidents leading to drastic outcomes such as physical injury of a child or euthanisation of a dog, we are driven by the proactive stance of averting such danger in this high-risk area. In line with the Burnside Council's support of the SA Government's Good Dog, Bad Days campaign and existing resolutions to bylaws, we humbly request a resolution to Bylaw 5 declaring a designated on-leash zone encompassing just 3% of the reserve. We also request your consideration of the installation of adequate signage, and we have also submitted to Council a signed petition by 73 members of the Kensington Gardens preschool community for the requests outlined this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Council? Anyone wish to ask a question? Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for coming along tonight. I'm interested in the petition. We didn't get to see it, unfortunately, because there's some regulation about... Oh, it's only in confidence, which is... yes, I stand corrected. It was in confidence. There were only, I think, half of the petition were Burnside Council residents. So we accept that. It's interesting. I'm interested in data and how many attacks and yes, injuries there've been on kids in in the. I don't quite understand where this is happening, whether it's on the roadways, kids are going to cars, or can you give us a bit more information about that and what sort of injuries there have been? Thanks.
Thank you. So as far as, to answer your first question with when you said that it was in confidence, and when you said that there was half of the people were Burnside residents, I just wanted to make a point there as well, if you wouldn't mind. So the community of the preschool aren't necessarily always going to be residents, however they are interacting with the preschool and therefore deserve obviously the protection, because we could have grandparents or parents from split families picking up children, blended families with children who don't necessarily live, like siblings of children that are attending the preschool. So that's probably why you would maybe see other signatures on a petition that aren't necessarily residents of the Burnside Council. To answer your question, sorry, when it comes to the number of dog attacks, I can't give you an answer to that, because what we did as part of the governing council of the preschool and the staff of the preschool, we put in our newsletters and we spoke to our fellow mothers and fathers and carers of children, and just promoted that if there are any instances or any incidents that you've encountered with dogs, to report those to council. So we didn't therefore have a way of knowing the exact numbers, but what we can say is we know of 4 instances of dog harassment that occurred, and there was 1 attack, I believe, on Trevor.
Oh yeah,
he was bitten. Those occurred within that path.
Yep. Am I allowed to?
Yeah, go for it.
So between the activity gym area and the preschool itself, so walking along the path towards the preschool gates is where it occurred. So there were some statements submitted to the Burnside Council last year, September and August, which started this whole process. Did that answer the question?
Ranger Jane Rentfree made herself available to take any statements, and she visited my house to take a statement. My statement was a general statement. It wasn't based on an actual attack or harassment that I've experienced, but it was for me to make a statement on behalf of the kindy, because I guess at the point that we were at that point, it became concentrated in the sense that we wanted all instances up until that point that had just been, spoken about to actually be reported. A lot of those people I know didn't want to necessarily sit down and make a report, but they wanted me and the governing council to actually make a point to you as council.
Thank you. Next one is Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for coming along this evening. I just have a question. Why, with the incident of the child having a sandwich or food taken out of their hand, why was that not reported to council?
I believe that actually happened before we were a part of the Kensington Gardens preschool community. So that was the year prior, and the teachers then focused on educating the children about dog safety to try and optimise risk assessment. When that happened again. And I think they actually changed their practice to have more inside the kindy food, and they didn't take their food outside of the kindy as much. Because as you might know, it's also called the kindy in the park, where they walk to the nearby tennis courts and utilise those sometimes, and they also do exploring around the parklands.
So if they're actually walking in the park outside of those on-leash areas, how are they going to be protected then?
Well, if it's in the tennis court zone, then that would be adjacent to the kindy.
So you won't move outside of that specified area?
Well, I think they wouldn't be taking food out there, which is their current practice, to try and minimise.
Thank you. I also have another question, if that's okay.
I've got a lot, so could I come back to you? Unless it's a subsequent question.
It is. My question is, and I think you actually touched on it a little bit, is do you actually have an education program within the kindy for children and parents to understand dog behaviour, dog responses, etc.?
Thank you. Yep, I can. A program, yes, they have implemented ideas, like a risk assessment in that, like Dr. Cranwell mentioned, that food, they don't take food outside of the, so they have made a risk assessment, they've put in place procedures and protocols to minimise the interaction between dogs and children. They've also consulted with, say, some of the more regular dog walkers that go past the kindy who are known to them and friendly to the staff of Kensington Gardens Preschool, and they've actually had one of the dog walkers come in and show how to, interact with a dog, or what an appropriate way to approach a dog would be, or not approach a dog. So definitely tried to educate the children in that as well. Did you have anything?
In addition to that, in September last year, they had some of the rangers from Burnside come to the kindy, hand out pamphlets to the parents, and they were happy to engage at the time with questions from us parents about what we should be doing to minimise risk. And they also offered the opportunity to come back and talk to the children about education, and we were very happy for that to occur, but as of yet it hasn't.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. On the map that we have on our agenda, can you tell me, you have one definite entry and exit point for the kindy. Where is it on this map? Yeah, well you can... Yeah, okay. You highlight where it is.
Sure. It's just under that tree coverage right there.
Okay. Yep. And do parents, grannies, enter from the car? Is this a car park here? I can't remember.
That is a exercise equipment.
Okay.
Yep, go on.
Where do most parents come from? The road or the pathway into the park?
50-50, it's both. So because of how many children there are, so cars park all along here.
Yep.
And so to draw a line from every car, that would be every entry point and then the car park here. So obviously most people should follow the path and not cut across the grass, but they do.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Turnbull. Councillor Wilkins, you just turn your mic off.
Sorry.
Who do you think will police this? The rangers can't be there all the time, so how will it be policed?
So we actually want the signage and the off-leash zone so that we have a bit of backing when we ask owners to put their dogs on leads. So when dogs have come up to us when they've not been on leads and we're like, oh, would you mind putting your dog on lead? My child is afraid. They'll be like, oh, it's fine. This dog is fine. And I'm like, okay, the dog's fine. My child's scared of dogs. So if we had a zone there that was on leash, I feel like I could say, this is actually an on-leash zone. Can you please put your dog on the lead? And I've got a bit more backing there to, for them to actually exist and have a social
we're not expecting you to then put any more measures in place as ranger presence than what already occurs, especially in the precedented areas already that Bylaw 5 already covers in the wading pool, the playground and the cafe.
Councillor Davey, you have another question?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Yes, just a couple more. I'm still a bit nonplussed because the whole preschool is fenced, isn't it?
Yes.
So, and the kids stay within the fence. How do they migrate across to the tennis courts?
So they have, every now and then, they have things called Wheels Week, where they go out and they bring their wheels and they go and use the tennis courts.
Oh, yeah.
They are nature kindies, so they go out and embrace nature, they pick up litter, they learn about, recycling. So they do go off of the precinct at specific times. They haven't been able to yet this term due to not only staffing, but I think because of the less staff, they've felt a little bit uneasy with the presence of all the dogs and being able to monitor it all properly. And the second thing is the issues are happening the harassments that were documented were happening at drop-off and pick-up time. So literally when we are walking from our cars to the preschool, which may only be a 15-minute, or if you've got a dawdling toddler, a half an hour journey, but that's ample time for a dog that's off lead to approach.
And just one follow-up question. Just a few metres away is a very highly utilised children's playground, which is visited by tons of kids and grandparents and everyone. It's very popular. That has a 10-metre limit of dog control, and I don't believe we've had too many problems there, which is a very concentrated area for children playing.
Yeah, that's true. And I actually take my children there, and we've had 2 occurrences where I've told the dog owners, this is actually an on-leash zone, can you please put your dogs on lead? Because they know that,
enough, yeah.
they have.
Yeah.
So it's not progressed beyond that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Harvey. Thank you, Mayor. Just one more question. I believe you originally were accepting of a 10-metre dogs on leash zone with what I saw was the cutest little sign, and I believe that you were accepting of that, and I'm just wondering what has changed.
I can start it. Thank you. So yes, we did start out like that because we were looking at what already existed, because I work in government myself, and I know that the path of least resistance is sometimes following what already exists as a precedence. So that was our initial exploration of that. We were engaging with members of council to get your opinions on that. So that was the starting point.
And we accepted that, as a temporary measure.
Oh.
We never actually accepted it as a...
Yeah, so then from there, then it progressed to the sign that said, keep your dog under control. That was the bit right down the bottom of that sign with that new image of the dog. I know for a fact Dr. Cranwell did state in her email, this is a great start, and this is, but we still want to obviously continue to actually setting a proximity zone. And it was actually through a discussion that we had on premises at the preschool with Councillor Hallett and other members of Burnside Council to have a discussion about what actually worked, and it was actually brought to us as a suggestion to actually put the perimeter to the car park, and we were thrilled by that suggestion, because it was less about us wanting or asking, it was then all of a sudden you guys were giving us something that we didn't even know was a potential option. So that's how that, in a very short amount, condensed version, that's how that progressed.
Thank you.
Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Ms McGregor and Dr Cranwell for coming in. I've had, my children aren't little anymore, they're quite big, and but I've been in this same sort of situation and also had experience on governing councils, so know what it's like having a lot of things coming from lots of different directions. I wanted to ask specifically Dr Cranwell, Ms McGregor mentioned that you had particular experience in the field of children being attacked. Could you tell us a little bit more about the threat that having dogs freely roaming can have on a child who's scared of a dog?
Yeah,
please?
absolutely.
Thank you.
So I worked at the Women's and Kids Emergency Department for a stint a few years ago, and in that experience we have multiple children with facial lacerations, as well as lacerations to the hands and feet, and the risk of that is not only cosmetic damage as well as disfiguration, but also infection. Dogs have quite significant bacteria within their mouth, as well as humans and cats, that can lead to very nasty infections. So the kids often end up in ICU for quite a while. There is a documentation that actually states that 70% of dog attacks on children are in a public forum where the dog was not previously known to the child, and they are seen as preventable. I'm not sure if that quite answers your question. or if you wanted more detail.
Thank you very much for coming in and answering the questions. Please accept our thanks. Now, we do 10.4 as a petition. What wasn't quite understanding what was happening with that. Okay, it's just a motion to accept the. So, a 10.4.1 is a motion to accept the council receives some notes petition. I seek someone to move that. Councillor Davey?
I have a question about it. I don't want to move it necessarily.
I'd like a mover first. Councillor Hallett, you're moving. Seconded, Councillor Cornish. Don't wish to speak? All right, now you can ask your question, Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just amazed at the change of policy in that the petition, which is a public document, has not been published in the council agenda papers as is part of our policy and usual practice, and is declared on every page of the petition that this is a public document, so that anyone who is signing it, which they have every right to do, knows that it will be published as a public document. Why the change?
Through Madam Mayor, this has been handled as per Council's policy and also as per legal advice received, and I'll get Mr Spearman just to expand on that legal advice for us.
Through the Mayor, yes, there was a change to the Code of Practice for meeting procedures, which included the protection of private information. So the past practice was to take a redacted version, and that went on the website, but it was redacted so you wouldn't see the names and numbers and all that kind of thing. That was going to be given to council, but under the advice, we've given council the full information in full on the council member portal, but encrypted so that personal information couldn't be shared. There's clearly an issue if you publish personal information, signatures, addresses, names publicly for all to see in the public agenda. Now, these documents are still council documents, and they're still visible and viewable and FOIable and everything else, so the disclaimer still stands.
Councillor Hallett.
I just wanted to say, or let members know that the petition is available on our internal website, and you can look at it. You can see who signed it, what their addresses are, etc.
It's just not for publication.
No.
Councillor Davis.
Thank you. I'm still confused about this policy. It's a major policy change that the administration have made, but that we're not part of. And it's the practice of this when we state on the document that this is a public document. And why this is the first time this has happened to any petition that we have, and we regularly have petitions, and that they're published, sometimes, as Mr Spearman has said, with their names redacted or the addresses redacted, but they are public documents. And I think this is a major change of policy, and it's regrettable.
Through Madam Mayor, I don't agree it's regrettable, and I also don't agree that the administration changed it without your knowledge. I might just ask Mr Spearman to elaborate on the process that was gone through.
Through the Mayor, there was a process for the change of the document, so this was provided at a council member workshop where this part in particular was discussed with council. Additional to that, there was a feedback on the document before it was endorsed by council, so it was sent and circulated through email. There was no issues from any council members after that. So then it was brought to council with the change saying that the document will no longer be put on the website, but it will be on the council member portal, and that was endorsed by council in November.
Councillor Cornish.
I absolutely missed it. I'd love to know when it was.
Thank you, Worship. Just to clarify this point, so the Council's meeting procedures that requires a supermajority vote of this chamber to change when we're changing the amount of time we talk in this chamber to how we receive our petitions, which is all in that same 90-page document, was changed and agreed by everyone in this chamber in November. And we did it to protect the confidential information of signatures, phone numbers, email addresses, and actual addresses of people responding to petitions. And we had countless workshops, provided lots of feedback in that document before the whole chamber voted. No one actually spoke to that item because you'd already moved to it before I got into the chamber, because that was the day that I arrived late. But everyone actually agreed to that in this chamber at that time. So we've changed it. We changed that policy. So is that correct? Sorry, I had to ask a question.
Through Madam Mayor, yes, that's correct.
All right, if there's no one else wishing to speak, I'd like to put the motion. Council, those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. What's the problem?
Sorry, I didn't catch it.
I'm just confused what we were voting on.
Well, just to accept the petition.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's all. 10.4.1. Just to accept the petition. Receives the petition. All right, Councillor Cornish.
Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Okay. I'm going to just ask how you want to handle from now on. In the past, we have a number of times when we've had deputations, we have changed the order of the meeting because the deputies have remained in the room. I seek a motion or a direction from council as to what you want to do at this point in time before I start working through reports. Councillor Hallett.
I'd like to move that we move item 13.4 to bring it forward so that, as we have in the past, and so that we discuss that first.
I'll second the motion.
Sorry, I haven't got my microphone. Those in favour? It's procedural motion, isn't it? Can I just check, please? I don't want to get...
So just to confirm, Madam Mayor, it's a normal motion, it's not procedural, so councillors are entitled to the normal rules of debate.
All right. So therefore you do have the opportunity to speak, Councillor Jones.
Look, I've got to be consistent. I support this motion, but our procedures are in an order for a reason. That we get the business of council done first, and then we do elected members' motions on notice at the end. Thank you to the deputies for coming, but you're not allowed to speak in the debate, so honestly, there's no huge purpose you staying here to watch it. So I just think we need to stick by our procedures that we've agreed, and I have noted in the past that we used to spend hours clogged up at the beginning of the meeting with motions on notice. We moved them to the back so that we actually had proper time to consider the officer's recommendation, the mainstream business of council, and the problem is that this is open to abuse, is that you can put an end run round our meeting procedures by getting someone to turn up to make a deputation. And in my view, we need to follow what we've agreed to do, tough as it may be for the residents. And as I've said, I'm voting in favour of this motion, so I'm not doing this to delay it, but I just think we should stick to our procedures.
Councillor Hubel. Councillor Cornish.
To counter some of those argument points from Councillor Jones, I think it is important for members of the public who sit in the gallery to actually witness what their council is actually doing firsthand. They don't have to go home. Absolutely not. It's democracy, and we should be, accountable to our community. So I feel that, anyone who wishes to stay in the chamber, it is just an absolute courtesy if we've got the ability to reprioritise the agenda, that we can. I don't see a problem with it, and I will be voting for it.
Councillor Hallett. You've already spoken, Councillor Hallett, when you moved the motion. Right, Councillor Jennings, you did second, but you didn't speak. So, if you wish to speak,
I do wish. Excuse me. I do wish to speak. I think it's excellent. Our ratepayers can come in and be a part of democracy in action. If you're a ratepayer, you can put your hand up and you can nominate for this council, and I think it is great. Thank you for coming along.
I have no one else here to speak. Do you wish to speak again, Councillor Jennings? Sorry, Councillor Hallett.
So I can speak to the motion.
And then we go to the vote.
And, okay. Okay. So obviously I'm going to speak in support of the motion.
Remember, you're actually just in support of moving this order of the... Okay, you're not actually talking to the motion.
No, I don't need to speak to
just
that.
the order, okay? So you don't wish to speak? Right, I shall put the motion. All those in favour of changing the order? Those against? Motion is carried. Division's been called. No, you don't need to stand. You just put your hand up if you voted in favour. Yes, you changed the rules. Right, so councillors in favour, Councillor Zing, Davey, Wilkins, Jennings, Hubel, Dawes, Hallett, Harvey and Cornish. Those against? Councillor Jones, keep your hands up. You're supposed to keep your hands up. Councillor Jones and Councillor Turnbull against. The motion was carried, so we now move item 13.4 forward to debate now, and it is your motion, Councillor Hallett, so you get to speak now on the motion.
I'm going to move it. Oh, so we're not applying what we've done in the past where other people have taken over my motions and spoken to them.
We changed that when you moved in November.
Right, so now we'll give you another start. Councillor Hallett.
Kensington Gardens Preschool is located on the parade in Kensington Gardens Reserve. It is known locally as the Kindy in the Park. The core business of the preschool is to provide age-appropriate educational programs that maximise each child's potential development and love of learning. Kensington Gardens Preschool is a Department for Education school, and as such it has a catchment area defined by the department, which includes Tranmere, Kensington Gardens and Rosalind Park. So parents do come, some parents do live outside of the council area. However, dog walkers also come from areas outside of the council area. Kensington Gardens Preschool program operates on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays during school terms. The preschool also has a Friday playgroup as well as bilingual and preschool support programs. Session times start at 8:15 and end at 3:45 in the afternoon. The preschool takes advantage of its location within a park, promoting and encouraging nature play in the creek, under trees and across varied terrains. Children develop nursery and literacy skills using patterns and objects found in nature: rocks, sticks, leaves, branches, water, rainbows, etc. Fallen logs and secret hiding places spark dramatic play. Children encounter insects, birds, lizards, and sometimes, if they're lucky, koalas. And they develop a sense of care and responsibility for the environment. Last year, the preschool wrote to council recommending that a dog on leash control be established for a zone around the Kindy. The recommendation arose from a child having been bitten by a dog, as well as dog harassment incidences near the entry and exit point to the facility. There is a shared concern by preschool parents, carers and staff about the risk to children from dogs off leash near the kindergarten, as evidenced by the 73 signatures on their petition. Parents and management are clearly aware of their status as a kindergarten within the park and the need to balance their responsibility for keeping children safe with the needs of other park users. As such, they work collaboratively with Council towards managing risk and implementing control measures that promote child safety while having minor inconvenience to dog walkers. The Dog and Cat Management Board's Dog Owners Handbook states, "It is your responsibility to ensure that your dog is kept under effective control when in public. This means you must keep your dog on a lead of no more than 2 metres when walking in public, unless in a designated off-lead area like a dog park or a beach. Even when in an appropriate off-lead area, your dog must still be under effective control. That means it will respond to voice commands and come when called. Unfortunately, dogs coming when called is not always the experience of parents and children entering or exiting the kindy. I hope you will support this motion because it represents a common sense approach to managing risk and will have minimal impact on most dog walkers within Kensington Gardens Reserve." Thank you.
I need a seconder. Councillor Hubel, do you wish to speak or?
Not at this time.
Right. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have an amendment, if I could move that please, that I have sent through to the staff. Can you bring it up?
Madam Mayor, with your indulgence, I just need about 5 minutes just from the staff to assess the motion to determine whether it's an amendment or an alternate motion.
Thank you.
Could we have it up on the screen, please, for the meeting to consider? I'll read it out anyway. And my amendment is that Council declares, pursuant to Section 2463E of the Local Government Act 1999 and Clause 5.2 of Bylaw 5 dogs, for a trial period from 1st of April 2024 to 13th of December 2024, all land within 10 metres of the Kensington Gardens preschool as a dog on leash area between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. on Monday to Friday during the South Australian Department for Education school terms. 2, undertakes a period of community consultation as soon as practicable in accordance with the Community Engagement and Consultation Policy. And 3, receives a report by the end of June 2024, so that's in 4 months, that presents the results of the community feedback and any recommendations in relation to the trial. So it's supportive and supplementary to what Councillor
My initial
Hallett
reaction is that that is far more than an amendment, but I am waiting to get governance advice.
It's just changing 20 metres to 10 metres and formalises...
It's definitely an alternate motion as the advice I have just received. So I will not accept it as an amendment.
Can we put that to Council to ask if Council would accept it?
It's the Mayor's decision on this with advice from governance.
I will then speak. No, I haven't.
Yes, you have. You've moved an attempted amendment, so you've
I wish to say that I don't have a problem with us trialling a dogs on leash area to support the preschool centre.
Thank you for the point of order. Will you explain your reason?
I was under the impression I heard you make a ruling that Councillor Davey moving that amendment constituted her speaking.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, she's going ahead and speaking.
Therefore, I will uphold the point of order.
So how many minutes have I spoken already? I'm entitled to speak on this motion.
Through the Mayor, Councillor Davey has spoken for 1 minute, so we'll have 2 minutes remaining.
Thank you. My thoughts are, we've heard the presentation tonight, where just about all of us use Kensington Gardens reserves. It's a very popular park with the whole range of the community. So it's from children, grandparents, the whole range of people who use it, dog walkers, runners, so many people. The preschool is very privileged to be located in this area, in a very choice path of a lovely park with all of the associated benefits that the children benefit from. I think a 10-metre dogs on leash zone in such a highly utilised public park is a reasonable approach to support around a fully fenced preschool. I agree that signage is necessary and reasonable. Comparatively, we have a very large, highly utilised playground just about 50 metres away from the preschool, which requires dogs to be on leash within 10 metres of the playground, and there'd be far more children exposed to dogs in that really large open space. I will move my alternative motion. I won't support the current motion, and I will move the alternative motion and ask that you join with me in voting down this motion, and I'll put up the alternative motion. Thank you.
Councillor Zing.
Can I get some confirmation from administration what the difference between 10 and 20 metre means in practice?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I might get Mr Cooper just to elaborate on that for us.
Through the Mayor, if I could just clarify, are you looking for an explanation of the difference between the area that's in the current motion on notice compared to the 10 metres? Otherwise, it's just 10 metres. Yep. Is that right? Yeah, so you're looking for the difference between the two? I'm not clear on what the question is, sorry.
I think it's a clarification of the difference between whether it's 10 metres, it sort of surrounds the building, whereas the 20 metres includes the walking distance that people where they currently park their cars from inside, you know, where the cricket people park, to walk diagonally across the lawn, as was discussed by the representatives. I think that's where the confusion lies, Mr Cooper.
Was the point of order raised?
Point of order was raised. I'm not sure who by, because I didn't hear it. Wasn't addressed to me. Sorry? I wasn't entering the debate. I was giving an answer to a question. I was attempting to clarify the question, but I should have really asked Councillor Zing to do the clarification. Therefore, I won't accept that as a point of order, as I was not attempting to enter the debate at all. Councillor Zing, was I accurate in trying to understand the question you were asking? And was that the right question that I put to Mr Cooper? Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Cooper?
Through the Mayor, I think if I can explain why the area in red was proposed, that might help. Council administration, myself, the group manager, and some rangers met on site to try and work out how we could establish a dog on leash area at the time when the initial emails came through highlighting the concerns. So to do that, we took into account the locale and the fact that you've got the parade and the park features around, including the internal road and the internal footpath. The features chosen to form the boundaries are easier for the community to identify as a clear border and easier for our rangers to undertake education and ultimately compliance. The borders in the red would allow parents and children to travel from the parade and the car park adjacent to the rotunda through the areas that are declared a dog on leash during preschool operating hours. The difference between that and obviously the 10 metres is that you don't have that defined boundary. You will have some issues with the compliance. It's very difficult to prove from a compliance point of view if a dog has gone into that 10 metre zone or not. And yes, it's easier for the public to understand what that area is with signage. So that's the difference between the two.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for administration, please. Why has that area been proposed as opposed to a regular 10-metre zone for dogs on leashes, as in playgrounds? Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I'll just refer that to Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, yes, you're absolutely right. The usual 10 metres applies to other facilities where we've had issues with dogs not being on leash. In this particular example, as I just responded to, it was a site visit to determine how, for the kindy, we could actually establish a zone. So with the footpath, the car park and the proximity to the road, it seemed a reasonable boundary to propose, given that it's only in operation during the period 8 till 4, Monday to Friday, and only during the school term. So it's just easier for compliance reasons. So that's why there's a difference, but there's nothing to say that council could resolve to apply a similar 10-metre ruling as well.
Councillor Hallett, you have a question?
Yes, my question to the administration is, is the car park on West Terrace, is that also used by parents accessing the kindy, and is that why that's included in the zone?
Through Madam Mayor, I'll refer that to Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that question.
Sorry, no, you can't speak because you've already spoken. You'll get an opportunity to speak again to summarise at the end when everyone else has finished speaking. Councillor Jones is next.
I'm going to speak to the motion. Look, it's really sad that we need to pass this motion, which I will be supporting. And it's a symbol of the moral collapse of our society that someone walking a dog, if they saw a small child, wouldn't immediately put their dog on a lead. It's utterly disgraceful. And the fact that if a mother asked a dog owner to put a dog on a lead, saying your dog is scaring my child, that the dog owner would refuse. I mean, words fail me, really. I mean, I don't often say that, but it's absolutely disgraceful. Let me tell you, if I was the benevolent leader of Burnside, these people would have a bit of a shock coming to them, let me tell you. So, look, please support this motion. It's sad that we have to. It's a sign of the times, but yeah, please vote yes.
Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. A question for administration here. It's just the community consultation. It's kind of back to front. You know, why didn't we do the community consultation first? This is to the CEO and to Mr. Cooper, to get their reaction rather than saying we'll do a trial, which isn't normally the way that we would do it, but I'm just looking for the reasons why.
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, I think there's some precedent for this approach, but I'll get Mr. Cooper just to expand on that.
Yes, through the Mayor. I guess we've taken a risk approach. In looking at the various options and community consultation, trying to work out the best way of doing this. So how could we give that protection as quickly as possible? And obviously it's going to take a little bit of time to prepare the signs and promote. So we were looking at a start of April commencement date anyway with the education. So even if we start immediately, that's when we're looking at starting. So to bring that into effect, if we were going to go the other way around and introduce engagement and consultation, we wanted to do this thoroughly and obviously make sure all the park users have an opportunity to say. the recommendation was to go for a trial rather than to actually make a firm resolution at this stage, and to seek feedback under our community engagement and consultation policy, and then be able to bring that back to council in June. So whilst it is, you would normally do it the other way round, we've put some, I guess, measures in place to make sure that A, we don't stop that important consultation, but we also are taking, listening to the concerns of the petitioners and taking some action as soon as we can, but on a trial basis.
Councillor Cornell.
Thank you, Worship. I don't usually say this, but I very much agree with Councillor Jones. It is an indictment of society that we're losing our consideration and our empathy for other people, where people in our community are refusing to acknowledge others, and a general easy request. I will note though, I read with importance in New South Wales, a dog owner recently was actually sent to court and heavily fined for not having their dog under effective control, and the dog only went up and sniffed and licked someone, but it wasn't under effective control. So it is becoming more and more of an issue out there. Look, I'm going to support this motion as it stands. I think it's a clearer boundary for the park users in terms of, this is where children are present, can't really do it in this zone. I think, around the kindy rather than 10 metres, I think it's, with the pathways, the way that it is in the driveway and the roads, I think it is a much more defined area to actually say, well, that's a dogs off zone, and would be similar in the wetlands sort of area as well. Like, it's a defined zone. So I'm happy to support the motion as it is.
You have a question, Councillor Dave?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It relates to community consultation, and part 3 is probably a bit wishy-washy in this regard. Provides and promotes opportunities for the community to provide
question, please. You don't need to reread the motion.
A question. It's talking about providing feedback as opposed to community consultation. So I just wanted to make sure that this is intended to be proper community consultation as per our policy. Is that the intent of the motion?
Through Madam Mayor, I'll again get Mr Cooper just to make comment.
10 metres in this. Have you got 10 metres in here?
Thank you. Through the Mayor, I've had a number of conversations with the motion mover, and I can assure all councillors that all community engagement and consultation will be done in line with the policy. So there are some clear guidelines within that to ensure that will take place. And if I can just give you some idea of what's going to be involved in that. There's going to be the engagement to encourage feedback on the trial of the dogs on a lead zone within the red area for the period and time as per the motion. We're going to provide A3 laminate signage around the location that includes a QR code to a link to an online feedback form. We'll prepare and deliver letters to the properties immediately adjacent to Kenzie Warmer and all boundaries, again with a QR code to give feedback online, and with a reply paid envelope for those that want to use it for the survey for people to provide a written response. There'll also be a link on our social media and in the e-news that will be delivered via our engaged.burnside users. So an extensive process there of education, of informing people what's happening, and providing an opportunity for all park users to provide feedback to the administration. We've obviously got Easter in the middle of the period that we're looking at, so if we start at the start of April, take out the school holidays and go through to the end of May, that will be over 40 days worth of consultation if you include the weekends. Our policy says 21, so we're going to give plenty of opportunity for that feedback. That will all be summarised and presented back to Council before the end of June, and at that point Council can then make a decision on the way forward.
Councillor Wilkin.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to support the alternate motion on the screen. I am a responsible dog owner. My dog is always on lead. My dog is considerate of children, with children all the time. I am only going to support 10 metres. I don't think we need 20. In fact, my co-ward councillor here, the artist that he is, has drawn a circle 10 metres from the entrance, in a circle from the entrance to the kindy. That's quite a better area than the actual dark black square, rectangle. No, it's a rectangle, be precise. But anyway, 10 metres, and I do think we need to actually go out to community consultation. And if it's 10 metres everywhere else in our community parks, in my area anyway, it's 10 metres here that I would support. And I agree with Councillor Jones, everybody should be aware of the possibilities and keep your dog on lead. Thank you.
Councillor Dawd.
Yeah, one further question of CEO, Mr Cooper. After feedback is received from the community, and just say that they don't like, you know, it going as far as it has, does that mean that in June we can say that the 13th of December, which is the end of this declaration, we can say that that will now be, say, the 1st of July? Can we make that decision, or is the 13th of December set in concrete?
Through it, Mayor, if I can get Mr Cooper just to answer that one.
Yes, sorry, through the Mayor. To answer your question, Councillor Dawes, all of the feedback will be reviewed. We will obviously report back if there is feedback about concerns about the size of the area. That will come back to Council. I should have said in my previous response that before we go out with the consultation material, in line with section 5.2 of the policy, we will come out to the council members so you have an opportunity to review what we will be going out to consult on. So there's an additional step there. But in June, when we present the findings of that feedback process, council will have an opportunity to reconsider its decision. So that might decide that you want to do something different from a different start date that overrides the trial period that we've got in place. So yeah, very much so.
Councillor Davey, you have another question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm just a bit confused about the size in the attachment attached to the motion. We keep hearing about 20 metres, but the area in the red area is, well, it's a huge portion of the park. Can anyone give me an idea if it's more than 20 metres? Will this be considered to be 20 metres distance from, or are we just having a much larger bite of the cherry of the park as a convenient space?
Through it, Mayor, I'll get Mr Cooper just to talk about again why that area was decided upon, perhaps.
Yes, through the administration, through the Mayor, the administration has never mentioned the 20 metres, to be honest. We've been very clear that it's the area in red, marked on the map, and the map has accompanied the motion on notice. So I honestly couldn't tell you whether it was 20 metres or not, but it's more than 10.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. Like Councillor Wilkins, I too would support an alternate motion requesting the 10 metres, the 10 metre zone. I like to keep it consistent. That's what we have everywhere else in the City of Burnside. Let's make it the same so the residents aren't confused, dog walkers aren't confused. Let's make it 10 metres.
Councillor Hubel, do you wish to take up your option on seconding? Because they have no
I will, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, no, I do support this motion. And look, there's obviously a lot of emotion in the room about this, which I respect. Look, I think whenever something like this comes up, it's always a case of weighing up the rights of one against the rights of another. And the way I am framing this motion is we are looking to protect the rights of children. Their emotional well-being is obviously at risk for those children that are scared of dogs, of which a lot are. And that's where this motion elects to protect that right of these children to feel safe. And it's weighing it up against the right of people to have their dogs off a leash in the defined area of the park. And look, I see it as quite a simple thing. I think we're not banning dogs completely. I think the presence of dogs on leashes will still scare some children, but I think restricting dogs to have physical control as opposed to effective control, and I won't comment on the nature of effective control, but it's a bit of a compromise, and I think the fact that it's only during preschool hours, so it's only when children are being dropped off at and collected from this school, which is essentially it is a school. And I think it makes sense, and I'm not, and I respect the view that people wouldn't agree with it, but I must say I don't understand. So I do support this motion, and I urge the chamber to choose the emotional well-being and emotional safety of children over the rights of people to have their dog off of a leash.
Councillor Hallett, you ready to summarise? Looks like Councillor Harvey just got in first.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it goes without saying that we should support child safety. I am sure every single member in this room would certainly support child safety in any situation. This is a given. Nobody would want to see any child caused any harm. Our community have every right to have their say on this matter regarding dogs on leads in Kensington Gardens Reserve around the preschool with community consultation. Community consultation, I have put in front of you, is a government policy, and everybody has the right to have their say. For all park users and residents to have their say, and not just the parents of the preschool or 37 signatures on a petition from City of Burnside residents. Over the years, we know that council have been accused by many residents for not being included in decision making, to not have their voices heard with community consultation. The original discussion, as already mentioned, was for support of a 10-metre zone around the already fenced preschool with dogs under effective control or leash to add a layer of safety for the preschool children. I actually supported this proposal with community consultation. As councillors Davey, Turnbull and Wilkins have already stated, there needs to be consistency. We have 10 metres around our playgrounds where children play. So I don't understand what the difference is, why we're then not extending that area or even fencing it for the security of children. I think once this is supported with community consultation with a 10-metre zone to ensure this safety for children, we can all then know that we have done our jobs, because that is what the community elected us to do. And if we're going to get them on side, it's certainly by not allowing them to have their say. Thank you.
Councillor Zing.
Thanks, Mayor. Just following up to Councillor Turnbull's question, this is 10 metres which we've all received on our table, which indicates 10 metres crosses one of the boundaries of the tennis courts. So to follow on to Councillor Turnbull's question, if your dog crosses that baseline there, is that legal or illegal? It's so hard to police with this.
Councillor Zing, you're
I've got a
asking
point of
question?
order on that one. I've got a point of order on that question.
All right. Reason?
The document being referred to is not part of the motion being discussed. It's not in the papers, so it's not relevant.
It's not a point of order. The advice I've received, he is able to answer it. Councillor Zing is able to ask a question. Would you like to just re-ask that question so it makes a little more sense to whoever has to answer it?
I think it was just in terms of policing this. I don't think admin or our rangers can police when you've got half a tennis court covered in, half a tennis court out of the boundary lines.
Okay, there's more of a comment than a question. It's a rhetorical question, but I don't think it seeks an answer unless I've misinterpreted. Okay.
I took it as rhetorical, Madam.
All right, you see it as rhetorical as well. All right. Okay, now I'm going back to Councillor Hallett to summarise.
Thank you. I was glad to hear Councillor Harvey say that, of course, everyone agrees that the safety of children is the most important priority, or words to that effect, in any situation, because this is what the administration have worked towards. That's it. The Kindy didn't ask for this zone. This is what our administration have recommended as being the best way to clearly define the zone and to enable it to be understood by people who are walking past. It does include 2 car parks. It includes a car park, the internal car park. It also includes the one up by West Terrace, so that if that one is full, parents use the top one and walk down. And it also then covers the side path, because some parents pull up and actually park on the parade and then walk in through that way. I understand why the administration actually worked out that zone, because it's logical, and it doesn't cut off it doesn't cross halfway through the tennis court. It includes the tennis court. I've consulted with the tennis hirer. I've consulted with the 5:30 dog walkers group. We've had like a co-design workshop where we met with the city planner and the rangers and the team leader and the parents and the staff. There has already been considerable engagement and consultation. To me, it gets down to you either really put your money where your mouth is if you want to protect children and have a logical approach to establishing a clearly defined zone. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Division's been called, so those who raised your hands in favour, could you please raise them again and keep them up till I've called the names through. Councillor Zing, Jennings, Jones, Hubel, Dawes, Hallett and Cornish. Keep them up, unless of course you change your mind. Councillor Davey, Councillor Wilkins, Councillor Turnbull and Councillor Harvey against. The motion was carried. Thank you. revert back to our original agenda. Yes, yeah. And I will call through the reports. Thank you for those who came along. Community Renewables, Councillor Turnbull. Finance End of Month, Councillor Davey. Asset Management Plans, Councillor Davey. Lease of Sporting Club Buildings, Councillor Turnbull. Telecommunications, Councillor Turnbull. Oh, sorry. Just keeping it on permanently. Mayor's Activity Report.
Oh, no, go back, Madam Mayor.
Oh, sorry, it was Councillor, sorry, I didn't call it out. Councillor Davey had a name under Councillor Turnbull's, but I called out the first one that was on the screen. So 11.4 was Councillor Turnbull, 11.5 was Councillor Davey. 11.6, I seek a mover. Councillor Cornish, seconded by Councillor Wilkins. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Chief Executive Officer's report. Councillor Wilkins.
Sorry?
Are you withdrawing 11.7?
Yes. No, I'm not.
Well, then your microphone is still on.
Oh, sorry.
I seek a mover. No, Councillor Davey, you're withdrawing it.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, we go back to 11.1. Councillor Turnbull. Just wait for a few minutes until Councillor Jones is vacated.
Is he gone? Yeah. Right, thank you, Mayor. This one's regarding the matter of the Community Renewables Program. I'd like to move an alternate motion. Now shall I read it out or can people read?
You have to read it out,
Okay, I'll read it out.
which is included in your time.
Notes that establishing a community renewables program in the City of Burnside will support the community to reduce emissions and electricity costs in alignment with Council's strategic priorities. Number 2, commences a process to develop a community renewable program in the City of Burnside, including, but not limited to, conducting a procurement process and approaching the market in accordance with Council's procurement policy to determine what suppliers could provide a suitable service. Number 3, declares its preference that the procurement process be weighted to encourage the stimulation of the local economy, and that weighted preference be given to local South Australian and Australian suppliers, manufacturers, companies and trades. Number 4, approves the immediate financial allocation estimated at $65,000 spread over 2 financial years and the recruitment of an additional staff member as detailed in this report to undertake a robust procurement process, assist in delivering the Community Renewables Program in addition to advancing the various additional elements of the environmental sustainability strategy. Now, in speaking to this motion, I note the following, that in both the Council workshop on this matter and in the brief discussions at the previous Council meeting, it seemed to me that there were 2 things. A, there was a lot of support for the principle of a City of Burnside Community Renewables Program, and B, there was a sense of support for a process that would award a contract to a South Australian-based supplier. So given that Council would support and implement a Communities Renewables Program, then there seems to be 2 choices available to us. They are, 1, piggyback on the City of Mitcham's existing contract, or conduct our own City of Burnside procurement process. Using the Mitcham procurement process does not allow us to give a weighting to a South Australian supplier. Though their supplier has a South Australian presence, it's based interstate. At the last meeting, I asked whether, should the City of Burnside conduct its own procurement process, that we could give weighting in the tender process towards South Australian-based suppliers, And the response was yes, we could. So for this reason, I'm proposing that the City of Burnside moves to conduct our own procurement process to identify our supplier to our community renewables program. I very much hope you will support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Hugh, were you seconding?
I have a question.
Question?
If that's allowed before
can
the
I seek
seconding.
a seconder first?
Because depending on the answer, I may
Yes, I need a seconder first. Councillor Wilkins, you're seconding? Okay, now Councillor Hugh, you can ask your question. Or do you want to speak? Yeah, you want to hold?
No, I'll hold.
You'll hold, that's what I figured.
So just a question, Your Worship, if I may. It is always difficult when we get these alternative motions on the night. And what... No, wasn't in the papers. This has been here as an alternative. And I'm very... And I like what I heard Councillor Turnbull talking about with South Australian suppliers, and I think that's all very, very good, and I'm in support of those sentiments. But my question to administration is asking if they could give a summary of how this current motion differs from the motion in the papers in real terms. If it's just a case of having...
Don't interrupt, please.
I'm just asking a question.
Excuse me, don't interrupt. Don't interrupt.
She has had her say.
Here we go again.
I think she has spoken to it.
I have to deal with the point of order. That is not a matter for a point of order. But I will accept your concern. But we had enough interruptions last council meeting. I do not want interruptions during when a person is speaking. You don't like them if anyone interrupts you, and neither does. And Councillor Hubel has the right to speak. He's asking a question. He's clarifying his question. I think that's perfectly illegitimate. And I do not like to hear conversation and interruption during somebody's right to speak. Now, did administration understand the question that was asked? And are you able and willing to answer it?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll have a go at the differences. So my understanding of the key core difference here is that rather than proceeding with Shine Hub, it is seeking to go to a tender process, to go out to market, to put the proposal forward and see what comes back. The other key difference is in point 4, where it's seeking to do an immediate financial allocation of $65,000 spread over 2 financial years. The motion in the papers doesn't require that allocation. So this allocation that is being sought is a key difference.
And that's on top of any other budgetary decisions that we should be making in the future? The additional $65,000. Well, half of it for this year, half of it for next year.
If I can just clarify, Madam Mayor, to go out to public tender obviously will cost some council resource. Just haven't got the figure in front of you, but the administration have said, I guess, assisted here and said it's the $65,000 is an additional figure above what would be required if the officer's recommendation was taken on board.
I just wanted to clarify. Councillor Hallett.
I'm not sure if there's a point of order or it's just a question, but I thought that we agreed that we wouldn't use mobile phones during our meetings.
It is a rule.
I apologise, it was inadvertent, totally inadvertent.
Well, obviously its message is going across the chamber. Well, but you weren't the only one. There was the message was sent from here to there.
Excuse me, councillors were asked not to use their mobile phones. You made that, it's on our regulations. I did remind everybody at the beginning of the meeting. So I just asked people to refrain from using them from now on. I'm not going to say another word. We need to move on with this meeting. And at the moment, I haven't anyone on the screen. So, no, we now have Councillor Turnbull. You have a question.
I have a question, please. With respect to the employment of someone, which is mentioned in number 4, additional staff member, would their role be just to manage this project, or would be other aspects in council for them to manage as well? And what would they be?
Through Madam Mayor, if I can get Mr. Cant just to clarify that for us, please.
Through your worship, we estimate that this would be approximately a third of the requirements of that role. There's also a budget bid that will be for the consideration of council that goes along with the revised environmental sustainability strategy, which we presented to council for full endorsement in April. And that has a number of other elements to progress the strategy that will require additional resources to assist us with that. I provided that via email with a full breakdown of all of the responsibilities and the tasks of that officer. I can redistribute that if you wish, but I believe all council members have that information.
Councillor Councillor Turnbull, you can turn your microphone off, please. Councillor Davey.
Oh, thank you. Can I speak to the motion? Yeah. Thank you. I'm happy to support this amendment. I think it's one of the big concerns.
It's not an amendment, it's an alternative motion.
Thank you. This alternative motion. I think the concept is fabulous and in line with our sustainability objectives and all the reasons we heard in the terrific workshop we recently had. But I am concerned that we are able to demonstrate excellent procurement practices and due diligence in approaching the market and dealing with the market on a matter such as this. And so I feel much more comfortable agreeing to this. I think the financial allocation of $65,000 is an investment in getting extra staff, extra resources, and so that will enable us to undertake a really robust procurement process. I'd feel much more comfortable if we do that. I know it means a slight delay in us possibly signing up, but I would feel much more comfortable for this, to go down this track, and I thank Councillor Turnbull for her motion.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. I won't be supporting the motion as it stands. I can't see the rationale to do this versus the officer's recommendation. I've looked at the City of Mitcham's procurement policy, and it does have local benefit as one of their aspects or criteria that they do look into. And even our policy would have local, including South Australian and Australian suppliers, as is listed in this procurement. The provider is an Australian provider, so it would get preferential treatment that we're doing. The City of Mitcham has undertaken a huge amount of due diligence in this space with energy experts, with independent financial and organisational capability audits, with legal advice on the specific new nature of these types of agreements, with going through fair trade, anti-corruption and the principles of competitive neutrality, independent evaluations on the profit sharing arrangements that's being arranged, going through the mutual liability scheme and making sure it actually fits in with all of that, and undertaking a prudential review, which is a lot of work that they've done. Other councils have utilised that work. I don't know why why we can't as well. I just don't understand why we'd need to go and expend quite a lot of money to do something that someone else has done. Governments all over share their procurements. Once they've selected a panel of suppliers or a particular supplier, they'll use it. State government uses it all the time for travel, for stationery, for energy suppliers, for contractor staff, everything. I can't understand why we would expend 3 times the amount that's what was previously recommended just to make sure that we are doing some due diligence with this. The administration's original motion had $15,000 to make sure it did fit with Burnside's requirements, which was extraordinarily prudent, just to make sure of that. But I don't think we should be spending, way more than that on this. So I won't be supporting the motion as it stands, because I can't see it actually providing us with a different result than what we'd probably have with the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Dawes.
Yes, I'm only asking questions tonight, unusual for me. What Councillor Hubel said, that he hadn't seen the motion before, and the alternate motion on page 16. I know there's one major difference about I think it says approves in Councillor Turnbull's motion, and the alternate motion says refer it to the annual business plan. But apart from that, my question to administration is there any other difference between Councillor Turnbull's motion and the alternate motion on page 16, apart from the finance?
Through Madam Mayor, I think you've summarised it well, Mr. Councillor Dawes.
Oh, that's it. Good, thank you. I'll speak later.
Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Mayor. I will support this motion and thank Councillor Turnbull for this motion that she has put forward. I feel it's necessary to see other tenders supply information for our community so they have a choice. So I will be supporting this, and I would also like to acknowledge that Councillor Hallett was actually referring to me as using my phone as I was checking a message.
Related.
So I am apologising. Thank you.
Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will not be supporting this motion. Climate emissions are at record highs. We have literally passed a tipping point a few weeks ago, and if we do not do something now, if we drag this out and we wait and we go through this new process, it could be 24 months, 36 months, and we might have another hottest year on record, which we have just had. We are having tremendous weather events throughout Australia and the world. If we do not do something now, I don't know what we will tell our children, tell the younger generations coming through. We had this opportunity to slow down the carbon emissions in Burnside City Council. We did, and we've just decided to talk about it more. The administration is doing an excellent job. It's costly, like ripping out a gas heater at a swimming pool for a electric heater. It's costly, but it is making a difference to the emissions that we are spitting out into the environment. In the 80s, there was CFCs, and it was ripping a hole in the ozone layer, and we fixed it. we got rid of the CFCs in the paint tins and the hairsprays. I feel that it is our duty to vote to get this moving now. Thank you.
Councillor Dord.
Yeah, it's my turn to speak now for the first time. I think this debate has really torn me apart because I do support a renewables program. It is part of our strategic community plan that Dr. Phil and James, Brendan and others have been involved with. So I believe it's something we must support. I'll bring it up again. Era Water, you know, we started off with the best of intentions of Era Water, and we are still worried about that. Now, whether we should have done more prudential care with that, I'm not sure. So this one is very similar to me, that when you have a reputation of a council that's been used by a company, then we need to get it 100% right. We probably got it 95% right, but I want to be 100%, I really do. And I would prefer an SA-based company. I really would prefer that if we could possibly do it. So it may come back that Shine Hub is the only one, and I would say that's the best thing. So to me, we're all together on the principle. What we're not together on is the process. That's the only difference, because we all would put our hand up to say this looks to be a good program. And remember what I said last time, we're 14th out of 17 as regards councils, and if we're an AFL club, and now Mr Heinrich's here, so you can say your comments now, Councillor Hewell, then we would sack the coach, who would sack the CEO, and would sack the board. So we are really all together on this, it's just how we actually go about it. But I'd like to be 100% sure, that's what I'm saying.
I don't have anyone. I'm happy to go back to the mover, Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you all for your input. As a council, we like to think that we're open and honest and transparent. And our procurement system would give our residents confidence that we as a council are looking out for them. We're not piggybacking on another council, we're actually doing the work ourselves. It may take longer, but it's about this white labelling. The reputation of our council would be online. And some South Australian companies import the parts needed and assemble them in South Australia, thus providing more jobs for people in South Australia. Others, like Shine Hub, they bring their bits in all done. So they're assembled overseas and come in. A lot of them do that too, but the South Australian ones seem to do it here. And that makes more support for our local workforce. And that's what we're really after in South Australia. We do not want everybody to think we're a poor old state. We need to keep our people working for us. And in other words, let's vote for this, please.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against?
Division.
Division's been called. Those who've voted for, please put your hands up. So it's Councillor Zing, Davey, Wilkins, Councillor Harvey, Turnbull and Dawes. The motion's been carried.
Madam Mayor, might I ask a question? I thought I reserved my right to speak in the previous debate. You didn't come back to me.
I'm not coming back, but you didn't put your name up on the screen and I forgot. But you have won the debate anyway.
I always won the debate, yes.
Councillor Wilkins, I'm going to respond to you in that and say I wasn't paying anything at all. I use this machine. If there's no name on the machine, I go back to the original. All right. Now we move to What's the problem? Yes, we do need to get Councillor Jones back.
There are 3 bottles in the fridge.
Well, that's an absolute disaster, isn't it? Absolute disaster. Start, Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. I move in accordance with the recommendation. I just had a couple of questions, please, through you to the staff. One is on page 44, operating projects. The horticultural landscaping and beautification resources, I understand that covers the audit. So this is under operating projects, page 44, about the 2, 4, 6, 8th line down. Is that correct? That money was just for the audit? And are there any other landscaping works as operating projects that haven't been included here in the funding? Any current ones that are ongoing?
Through Madam Mayor, I think your recollection is correct, but I'll ask Mr Cant just to clarify for me.
Through your worship, that's correct. As per the email response I distributed to all council members yesterday afternoon, that was for the Galpins audit that was presented to council in December. With respect to landscaping projects throughout the city, the projects that are listed just on that finance report are specific operational budgets, projects that were approved through the budget. There will be other landscape works that we're doing throughout the city that won't be listed in there, but I wouldn't be able to provide you that information now. We'll have to take that on notice.
I need a seconder. Councillor Cornish, do you wish to speak?
No.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Worship. Just looking at the capital projects on page 45, can you just explain to me why 339,000 went on the dog park improvements? I was under the impression that initially it was 150. Why did it blow out to that amount of money?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm most certain it's not a blowout, but I'll get Mr Cant just to clarify the budget and the expenditure.
Through your worship, that's the budget that was approved. So it's 98% completed. So we've managed it within budget. I'm happy to share previous information provided to council separate to this meeting that demonstrates the budget.
Thank you.
Councillor Davey, you have another question?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just on that, the dog park improvement, part of the, some of that expenditure was supplanted by a grant, I think. I just wondered how much was the grant that we received for that?
Through Madam Mayor, Mr Cant.
Through your worship, I don't believe it was. I believe it was all council funded.
Councillor Davey, do you wish to sum up? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Councillor Davey, 11.3 on page 46.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have an alternate motion which should come up, which has been sent through. Can I ask a question while we're waiting? Could I ask for clarification? I sent this to you as the CEO, Matt, and Helen, who's taking the minutes. Is that the way we... Oh, that has come up. Is that the correct way to send an amendment through? Because there seems to be a bit of confusion.
Through Madam Mayor, we're not confused. It works fine.
Thank you. Thank you. So I've moved that we endorse the asset management plans for, that's all of them, for transport, stormwater, buildings, open space and plant asset management as provided in the attachments to the report. 2, defer finalisation of the Urban Forest Asset Management Plan 2024 to 33 for 1 month until the results and the implications of the state government LiDAR-derived tree canopy coverage assessment are known to us. And 3, receives a report on the 26th of March covering the implications of the assessment for future planting programs, for management and renewal of the urban forest canopy and any budgetary implications. So these are a huge amount of work, and congratulations to the staff for all of the consideration that's been given and the work that's gone into these. But I think that the Urban Forest Asset Management Plan needs to, it's imperative that it consider the LiDAR tree canopy coverage assessment. We are having a workshop on this and a briefing session on this next week. I think it's, with all of the other asset management plans developed adopting current funding levels, we really don't know in relation to the urban forest. We don't have all the results of the assessments which are used for tree management, as noted in the asset management plan on page 259. So that actually recognises the renewal plan for management of this asset, which is our urban forest, and the renewals are prioritised based on the LiDAR tree canopy coverage data, with preference given to areas with lower tree canopy coverage. So, as well, the LiDAR canopy assessment results and data can be used at a strategic level to inform council decision making on other renewal and tree planting aspects. So this means that this asset management plan needs the most up-to-date data for us to be able to allocate sufficient funding in the upcoming budget, as well as the long-term financial plans, to support replacement and renewal of trees, and as well sufficient staff if necessary to undertake this. We don't know if we've lost more canopy cover than that, I think 31%, which was the last measurement of the LiDAR. So I think if we don't defer it, we might be agreeing to a document on which significant funding decisions may yet need to be done. We'll have a briefing next week, and then I think we should reconsider in a month when we've got all of this data and we can allocate the budget accordingly. We know we're losing significant numbers of trees, both from private and public spaces, but I think we need as much data as possible to ensure we fund this asset management plan for our urban forest. One other point I'd like to make too, that the plant asset management plan use a photo of a female staff member. It's all, I happen to notice, all very male focused, and I'm sure driving our plant and using our plant we do have female female operators, thank you. And there's also a staff member who has left us who's in a big photo with a bike. I can't exactly find it at the moment, which I think could be replaced. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
We have never been at war with East Asia.
Councillor Hubel.
I don't think I'll need to speak, so I'll hold off unless I need to later.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question regarding number 2 with the 1 month. I'm concerned about the development of our budget and whether or not is 1 month too long, or do you think we'll need it sooner than that, so the first meeting in March, to actually make sure that that asset management plan for the urban forest can be incorporated appropriately into our draft budget?
Through Madam Mayor, just get Mr. Cant to comment on that, please.
Through your worship, we've worked very closely with the finance team internally to actually set the draft budget figures on the asset management plans as they are currently drafted. You will note in my response to you all yesterday, asset management plans are very much a live document. They're reviewed every 10 year. To every year for a 10-year period, and we basically use the new information to set each annual year funding appropriately. If there's any major changes that are required in year 1 funding going forward, we can certainly make that change to the budget post-consultation prior to adoption by Council.
I need a seconder for this motion, alternative motion.
That was
Did you second it? Okay, sorry, it was just missed. Councillor Hubel did second it, but he's reserved his right to speak. Councillor Hubel, it might be your last chance. Okay, then I will go back to Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for your consideration. While asset management plans are live documents, they are very much blueprints for how we operate and then allocate funds. And sometimes the point I'm making is that I'd rather get this one right, with all of the right and most up-to-date data from the beginning, rather than develop it and insert it down the track, because we can be then sometimes are told, no, this is in the blueprint, the asset management plan's been signed off, and this is how we're going to project it with our calculations and renewal plans and all of that sort of thing. So I think we've got most of them through. I think this is a really important asset management plan, and we all know we're under incredible scrutiny about our tree canopy and how we can maintain and improve it, renew it. And we want to be doing the right thing within the state government parameters as well as for our community. So I hope you'll support this. And is it possible, while I'm speaking, to get a replacement photo for the one on page 286, which is, I believe, a staff member who's left, and perhaps replace it with a woman in a photo. Thanks very much. Hopefully you'll support this.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Now I move to Councillor Turnbull, 11.4, page 309.
Thank you, Mayor. I have an alternate motion, which will come up. Thank you very much. I'll read it out. The motion is that we note the options for charging rent to sporting clubs detailed within this report. Number 2, notes that these options would be best considered through the upcoming leasing and licensing of community facilities policy review, which is due for review in mid-2024. Number 3, conducts a council member information session by the end of May 2024 to workshop the review of the leasing and licensing of community facilities policy, with a key component of the workshop being the development of an evaluation criteria that sporting clubs must meet to demonstrate their commitment to being a community organisation and making available their leased council facilities to the wider community. Number 4, that the revised draft policy be presented to Council after the council member information session for consideration and endorsement. As you may remember, this report was delivered in answer to my motion on notice last year about the archaic term peppercorn rent, that is $1 a year for certain organisations in the city of Burnside. My big question was why there was such a very minimal figure of $1 in this day and age when we're all aware of costs of living increases, including, and very much so, the Burnside Council. My motion scrutinises the City of Burnside sporting clubs only, though I do think the Education Department gets off easily with $1 a year for 4 kindergartens in our council area. That the debate on this issue occurs at the time of the upcoming leasing and licensing review makes sense, which is due for review mid-2024. Several council members have provided feedback and I thank them for it. It was my co-councillor's idea that because of paragraph 18, page 311, which says community lease applicants would need to demonstrate their community status against a specified criteria. He came up with the idea that we have a set of criteria to be established to identify each club and their commitment and involvement with the community. So probably like you, I have many questions yet to ask. For example, what do other councils charge? Please, could we have figures? Do they have set criteria to determine what is charged? What of the clubs which actively fundraise and contribute to costs? Who checks that clubs are actively maintaining their club rooms and grounds and courts? What agreement do private businesses like tennis coaches have with not only the clubs but the council? If not, why not? Still a lot of questions to be answered, which is why I would welcome a council members' workshop on this topic. I hope you support this motion.
Seek a seconder. Councillor Harvey. Sorry, Councillor Turnbull, can you turn your microphone off, please? Councillor Harvey, are you seconding the motion?
Yes, I do, and I'll reserve my right. Thank you.
Then I'll go to the next on the list, Councillor Hubel.
Yeah, I think this is a brilliant idea. I'm fully supportive of having another look at this. I've got a lot of love and respect for the clubs that lease our facilities, but I think we do also the balance isn't quite right. So I quite like revisiting this. So good motion, in my view.
Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I just want you to refer to page 316, which is the list of current peppercorn leases for the 14 sport organisations. And if you look at those 14 sport organisations, and we have a couple in our ward as well, and there's a wide variety in their size, in their capability of putting teams on the park, and they've all been charged $1. So what Councillor Turnbull is trying to do is say, well, look, we need to have a good look at this. This is probably a term from the 1930s and 1940s, because I do believe that if we can form some sort of measurement of a club's capacity to pay based on a set criteria, we might be able to say, okay, this club, you can't afford more than X number of dollars, and this other club, well, you know, you really should be putting in more dollars. And that criteria can conform to a number of ideas. You know, when I was first on council, I was very worried that some of our clubs had less than 50% Burnside resident membership, and still a couple do. Most don't. Most are very strong as regards Burnside residents. Some of these clubs are very, 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 very big. And so therefore I would say to them that to get a $1 peppercorn rental is probably, you know, you've got to demonstrate to us that you are serving the community. So the setting of this criteria is the key here, I believe, and having a workshop is the best way of us coming together, working out what we think are the most important criteria, working with administration and seeing where we can get. So I'm in full support of this, and as Councillor Turnbull says, there's still a lot of questions to be asked. This is the first stage.
Councillor Harvey.
I have a question, please. Why are kindergartens only paying peppercorn rent when they're not a club?
Through Madam Mayor, if I can refer that to Mr. Camp, please.
Through through your worship, we didn't touch on this as part of this because that was outside of the scope of this report itself. However, I believe that was set through council resolution, and there were some terms and condition with respect to their responsibility for maintenance and cost of upgrade as part of that that resolution. But yeah, I believe it was council resolution.
Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a perceived conflict of interest with this because I am a member of the Glenunga Croquet Club. I should have alerted you earlier.
Are you on the board?
No.
You don't have conflict?
No, I'm just... It's
yeah, so if I can clarify, just for your certainty, Councillor Jennings, unless you are on the board and making decisions as part of the board's decisions, you're deemed not to have a conflict of interest.
Super. Thank you, CEO.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Dave.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I thank Councillor Turnbull for all the work she's done on this matter, for initiating the original request for a report, which was, I think, 6 months ago. So we've had a whole lot of work done to reach this stage and have a look. We'll be able to see what some of the options are. I think Councillor Dawes summed it up beautifully with some of the issues that we really need to discuss and consider. A lot of the discrepancies between some of the wealthy sporting clubs, the social clubs. There's some, also on here, some very good community centres like the Eastwood Community Centre and the Lions clubs and scout groups and those sort of groups too, which we need to consider in terms of how they contribute and what the requirements are of them. So I think a review and a workshop of all of these matters and then some decision making and review of the policy is timely. So I support this. Thank you.
Councillor Court.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, the administration, for providing this report. I did certainly vote for it to come to this chamber. I can't support this motion as it stands. I have considered this quite a lot over the weekend and tried to play out the various scenarios that would actually occur. So if we went to let's go for a Westfield style lease agreement, we're going to have to increase our staff here because all of a sudden we're going to be taking over the maintenance of these facilities. So they're going to be calling up, our hot water's broken, our sink needs this, this needs that, I need a new air conditioner, blah, 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 blah. We've got to manage that if we're doing commercial style rents. And that's if we're doing, as I said, the Westfield style, where we go and say, well, you earned $200,000 this year, so we're going to take 10% of that as the rent. Plus probably a standing fee, or we could look at some of the other models that have been provided. Those costs would then end up going out to everyone that used that facility because they have to be paid somewhere. And the majority of these groups, all volunteers. There's only a couple there that I would know that actually have paid employees, a part of them, but the rest of them are community volunteers. They've all got community good, a kindergarten, educating children, Girl Guides, Country Fire Service. Yeah, let's charge them and kick them out of Burnside because they can't afford it. That would be fantastic. I'm looking at the list of peppercorn.
Stop a minute.
Sorry.
I have to deal with a point of order first. Would you restate your point of order? Cornish, you still have some time.
Thank you. Well, I will go into some of the sporting clubs. Some of the supporting clubs actually even owned their property and provided them, handed them over to council. And now we're going to charge them a huge rent? Come on. There was the deal that they were going to look after their facilities. I've got, and the cost of living pressures will just be pushed onto the people that use these facilities. These facilities will then never get used. The members of the community can't go and spend $2,000 to join a bowling club, because that's how that's what our, lease agreement means, that the 50 of them that play there will have to pay per year to actually pay the lease fee back to the City of Burnside. I've got some real fundamentals with going down this line. As I said, I went down a few different lines of thought, and it's just going to hurt the community even more. I understand that idea that, Burnside residents and the percentage of them that go, but similarly, in other councils, residents go and use those facilities as well. There is the tit for tat thing there, in terms of, we can't put a border around the City of Burnside and a fence. I know some people have joked about it in the past in this chamber, but we just can't do it. We are in a part of a community, and I don't think alienating members of the community that want to volunteer or want to get involved with community groups should be penalised by paying exorbitant fees, so I won't support it.
Councillor Hallett.
I will be supporting Councillor Turnbull's motion. The reason being that I think that, we know what we've got coming in regard to significant expansion of our borrowings and the burden that puts on ratepayers for generations. And I think it's beholding of us to therefore ensure that we get the best possible community outcomes for the whole community, not just for membership that can afford to pay annual fees. I think if we're asking ratepayers, and that's more than just our generation but beyond that, to take on the burden of funding these clubs, then I think that we should be, and we could, I don't know how you could actually do it, but you could arrive at a type of rent or a fee, and then if they meet certain criteria, that gets reduced. So you're encouraging them to deliver benefits to the community. That's why I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Worship. I won't be supporting the motion. I totally concur with Councillor Cornish on this matter. The clubs are there for the benefit of the ratepayers and the community in the city, whether or not they combine with members from associated suburbs. They are part of the community. We go, i.e. we, people in Burnside, play for other clubs. They go and play in other community sports facilities, and you share and share around. And particularly some of them, if we impose a fee other than $1 or 1% or whatever, a very low fee, they might fold. And don't forget, these clubs, and I'm just thinking of the Rotary Club of Burnside, who were out here in the courtyard a couple of weeks ago, they were using the Glenunga Hub the other day. I visited the men's shed. Residents and other members of the community were using that space. There's a whole lot of connection going on that we are facilitating, and that is important for everybody's well-being in this day and age. And for that, I can't really support anything other than the peppercorn fee for these particular organisations. And I note that Eastwood Community Centre is one of those. We are, I should say we, the collective we, are diligent in looking after the Eastwood Community Centre and encouraging people from, historically, people from across the road in Glen Osmond to actually join in with the Eastwood community. So it's connection and well-being that is really paramount for me. Thank you.
Councillor Dave.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a question. Can you just confirm, I probably could have looked it up, that the procurement and licensing, or the policy that we are talking about is due for, which is the overarching policy, is due for review and upgrading in May of this year, May 2024. So it is quite tight. Is that confirmed?
Through Madam Mayor, that's correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Mayor. I think there are some members around the room here that are not understanding Councillor Turnbull's motion here, and I thank her for bringing this to the table and her thoughts, and certainly Councillor Dawes for his thoughts as well. The motion is it conducts a council member information session by the end of May 2024 to workshop the review of the leasing and licensing of community facilities policy, with a key component of the workshop being the development of an evaluation criteria that sporting clubs must meet to demonstrate their commitment to being a community organisation and making available their leased council facilities to the wider community. This is a workshop. It is not saying that it is being decided tonight. This is so members can actually throw things around, discuss, etc. And for that reason, I will be supporting this information session. Thank you.
Councillor Turnbull, I'm going back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just writing something down. What I'm saying is really the fees don't have to be exorbitant. We don't want a lot. We want a little bit more than $1. And the criteria will be very interesting, because there are some clubs who do fundraise and do work really hard, and their volunteers are great. There's some clubs, though, who do have a bit of a begging bowl attitude, and they put the hand out and want it all done for them. So we will be sorting the wheat from the chaff, in other words, and I think a workshop would be excellent. We can all have our views and say them, and let's keep it strictly to sporting clubs. Thank you. I hope you support my motion.
Those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Now I'll go to Councillor Davey.
Could I move that we have a short break? 10-minute break, please.
It's because we do have several motions to
Yes.
go as well. All right. Everybody happy with that? Do you want a formalised motion, or we just have a 10-minute break now?
I think we're all good.
All right. Trying. Okay. We recommence with 11.5, telecommunications facilities. Councillor Davey. Page 317.
Thank you. Thank you. I move in accordance with the recommendation. And thank the staff for all the work they did on this and incorporating our feedback, which was considerable. There was a lot of interest. The only regret I have is that we can't seem to do anything about all the cabling and everything that's attached to, which comes from the NBN, I think, which is just draped around our Stobie poles and other infrastructure, and it just looks terrible. And every now and again comes loose and flaps in the breeze, and animals and things get caught on it. I don't know what we do about that, but I think this one, in terms of getting some control, is very worthwhile, so hopefully you'll support it.
Councillor Cornish, you seconding?
I am seconding, and I'll probably take this. I've had a conversation with the administration too that slipped something in through the slip rule regarding the timeframes. So obviously telecommunications, the phone towers, kind of important, especially in emergency situations like bushfires. And if they're not allowed to go into that facility because it's Sunday to repair it, I think it's an issue. So they've said just in case of an emergency that you know they can be repaired so that people have actually got communications and can actually listen. So they've put that in there. It's kind of a law anyway that you can go in and repair stuff, but I thought in the policy it's probably a good idea to clarify that in emergency situations they can fix it outside of the normal time frames that we've asked for general maintenance. But happy to second the motion as it stands. And I think the Stobie poles are owned by SAPN, so it might not be even the telecommunications infrastructure. So we might have to actually negotiate with them, Councillor Davey, about managing that rather than this policy. Yep.
If there's no one else wishing to speak, can I put the motion, Councillor Davey? Yes. All right, then I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Next one is Councillor Davey also, 11.7, page 334.
Thank you. I move in accordance with the recommendation. And I just had a couple of questions. One relates to page 339, under the City Master Plan traffic initiatives, which is great that this is all gaining momentum and progressing. The third dot point is a competitive market tender process. Consultants have been engaged to develop a citywide cycling plan with first stage of community consultation planned for March and April. When will the CMs be involved in this process? Because I don't believe we've had a workshop about this, or no. I don't know any of the implications of it and how it affects us. And then I've got another question.
Through Madam Mayor, if I can just refer that to Mr. Kent.
Through your worship, I've just proved an information document that will be delivered to you tomorrow, because it comes out weekly on a Wednesday, with all of the milestones and timeframes and how council members will be involved.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Cornish, do you wish to speak? Councillor Davey, do you have
another question? Page 336, recruitment and for staff, the Group Manager, Technical Services and Operations. Will we be circulated the information? I believe that's being completed and the job will be advertised soon. Could we please be sent that information?
Through Madam Mayor, by information you just mean the details that we've gone to market and
the ad. And the ad.
Yeah, certainly happy to provide that.
I've just been concerned it seems to have taken a long time.
If I may just give a bit of explanation, it's been quite deliberate because one of the things we do when every role becomes vacant is we do a review
Yeah.
to understand what's best for the future, and Mr. Kant and the team have done quite a lot of work, again, reviewing that role. So it was a little bit deliberate, the delay. But as Mr. Kant has shared, we're going to need a market, and happy to share the details.
Councillor Wilkins.
Yes, question through you to the administration. I note the precinct plans, traffic management plans for the other inner suburban areas, but not eastward. And I'd like to know when we're going to do some traffic counts and when can we get started, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll refer that to Mr. Kant.
Through your worship, I've shared full details, including project plans and timeframes, milestones with ward councillors particularly affected. As you'll recall, Councillor Wilkins, we decided to hold Eastwood back slightly until the major intersection upgrade was completed. It is completed now to ensure that we ensure the traffic counts and the impact, particularly on Eastwood, is fully understood post the completion of that project. We are, I believe, about to commence the initial consultation period within the next month, and then the development of the precinct plans in consultation with the ward councillors will proceed after that. I can reshare that email with you if you like, Councillor Wilkins.
The timeline I saw, I thought was the end of 2024, which is a bit like...
You're not experienced in those.
We were hoping for something soon.
Yeah, you pull it up.
So, thank you. Yes, I will.
If you would there.
Councillor Davey, you have another question?
Yes, thank you. On page 340, it's about the Regal Theatre, and there's a disability advocacy design workshop for people living with disabilities. What's the timeline for that, please? And has it all the work been undertaken, or is it about to happen? Thanks.
Yeah, so through Madam Mayor, I'll just get Mr. Kant just to clarify when that workshop's happening.
Through your worship, I believe it's tomorrow. I shared an email with all council members detailing exactly how we were approaching that, and council members were invited to come along to not be involved but to witness if they wished.
Can I return to you, Councillor Davey, to put the can I put the motion? Right, those in favour? Against? Carried. Now I move to Heritage Street Signs 13.1, page 361.
Thank you, Worship. I move in accordance with the recommendation as printed. I've worked for quite some time after seeing what the City of Prospect do in promoting their heritage precinct areas. Took a photograph while I was waiting outside the cinema over there to see a movie with a friend. And thought, wow, that would be really great in the city of Burnside. It would be able to tell anyone who goes down the street, whether or not that's to view to purchase a house in said street, or they're just driving around, that they are in a heritage precinct zone. So it has, I probably took that photograph back in August last year, so I have done a bit of investigation. As you can see, the council administration has kindly drafted up some examples of what they would look like. We are looking at that thicker sort of sign to be the standard one with the heritage precinct at the bottom. Obviously, when that one is being used for a no-through road sign, then the thin one might be attached. So look, I've also tried to make sure it's cost neutral for council, so as much as it can, and a slow rollout, and rolling out in areas and precincts that have smaller heritage zones as well. That's the priority. So Watuna Terrace, for instance, is a pretty small one. Not many people would know it. So whereas areas like Rose Park, Toorak Gardens, Dulwich, people know that it's pretty much a heritage precinct zone. So I sort of prioritise other areas in the city. I think, as you can see in the map, there's parts in Beulah Park and all over, dotted all over the city, in every single ward that's got one of those overlays in there, and they'll probably be prioritised before the larger sort of zones. Yeah, I hope you support the motion. I think it's a really good initiative to actually show everyone in the community where our heritage precincts are.
Councillor Wilkins, Councillor Hubel, you're seconding?
Yeah, I think this is great. It's a wonderful community-facing initiative. I apologise, Councillor Wilkins, if I've inadvertently done something wrong. Okay, maybe I will. I've got nothing. I'm only going to speak if I can improve the room, and I think I've done that for now.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you. I'm definitely going to support Councillor Cornish's motion. Fantastic. And I hadn't seen that sign in Rose Park, in Prospect, so thank you for bringing it to our attention. The more we can identify our heritage areas, the more we will retain. And I think it's just incumbent on us all to actually acknowledge the legacy that we have in our city and value. We value it, but we want new residents to also value what we have and what others have done before us, and not take the heritage landscapes, the heritage buildings, the heritage precincts for granted. And these are important. They continue on long after we are not here. So thank you very much. I do support it, and they will go well with the suburb signs we have in each suburb to identify where the suburb is. And if you're a stranger in the city and you're trying to find Tusmore, well, yes, there's a black and white sign, thanks to previous administration. Under Mr Cant's leadership, the suburbs have been named as well. So naming the heritage precincts with an addition to the street sign, I really do support, and thank you for doing that, Councillor.
Councillor Dord.
Thank you, Mayor. I am in support. However, I believe all areas of Burnside should be prioritised, not just those with historic overlays. I support historic overlays. Councillor Wilkins knows that. But not as a heritage precinct for the other suburbs. But, you know, I wanted us to think a little bit beyond this, and I believe that every suburb, every ward in Burnside has a unique feature of some description. And, you know, I'm just thinking aloud prior to the meeting. I think as we go up Green Hill Road, we're saying, you are entering the Hills Face Zone. I don't know, something like that. I just checked on Linden Park. And did you know Linden Park is the suburb of First Sea Lords? About 10 streets in Linden Park were named after Sea Lords. Now, I'm not saying that's what it should be for Linden Park, but what I'm trying to get to is that over time, you know, I just don't want us to just only think of the heritage suburbs. I think they're important, but other parts. Aldana, what a beautiful part, you know, so many trees up there and so forth. And even our own wards, that, you know, we can tell you all about our own ward. But I just don't want us to stop thinking about heritage overlays and heritage precincts for all of our precincts. So I am in support, but that's just a comment from me.
Councillor
Madam Mayor, I might refer that to Mr Cant, but we may have to take it on notice, I'm not sure.
Through your worship, I did have that information. What I can tell you is we currently have 9 heritage area overlay precinct. So that's Rose Park, Eastwood, Watuna Terrace, St George's, Beulah Park, Tusmore, Toorak Gardens North, Toorak Gardens, Ferguson Square, Glenunga Park, Kensington Gardens, the terraces. I may take up the CEO's offer, though, to take the rest of it on notice to give you an exact figure of number of streets that would be affected.
Councillor Jenny.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be supporting this. This is an excellent initiative from Councillor Cornish. When people come to buy real estate, they may perhaps pay extra attention to what is in the area and what they can and should not do, which we often see happen. So I thank Councillor Cornish, and I hope this moves through easily.
Councillor.
Thank you. I'd support the recommendation also, but I have got a question. Have we considered, instead of having white on black, if we could have white on blue, so that you bring in the blue heritage sign, that everyone then realises that it's easy to understand that that's heritage, because all the signs on the buildings they're all blue. So it just seems to me to be that would clearly identify that we're talking about a heritage area.
Cornish, do you wish to summarise?
Yep, happy to. Thank you everyone for your comments. Councillor Turnbull, I did a rough estimate of the number of streets by just going through the map one by one, and it's probably around the 80 street sort of mark, but you've got to recall that there are probably multiple signs on each street. So, you know, obviously one at each end, and when you get a T-junction in the middle, there are multiple signs. So to count the actual number of signs is a little bit more complicated. I did sit down with the administration and we discussed the budget in this area. There is some capability in there, as you've seen from the commentary, to do it, but at the same time I didn't want to do it in 1 year, and I wanted to make sure that it could be done within existing resources and I didn't have to go to budget and ask for more money, because I know our budget's going to be extraordinarily tight. So that's why I've designed it in 3+ years. So hopefully we'll get it in 3, but it will be very dependent upon, I suppose, the other priorities of the other areas and other street signs. So yeah, that was the sort of the rationale behind it. I didn't want it to be a huge cost burden, and it's something that we can roll out. I'm hoping some of the old signs that they take down could be reused or recycled, obviously, which would be great. So there isn't a huge issue there. I hope you support the motion. Thanks.
Put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Next one is the Regulated and Significant Tree Assistance Fund. Councillor Day.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is self-explanatory. We've finally, after some years of not having success with it, had great success this year with the Regulated and Significant Tree Assistance Funds, such that we have exhausted the funds in it. And the reason I know this is because one of my constituents has got an issue, and when I approached the administration, they said, no, we can't help, we've run out of money. This is because approximately 50 trees have been helped and assisted, and that is, I'll just give you a bit of an idea across the city. We've had 9 trees in Beaumont, 17 in Burnside Ward, 4 in Eastwood, 5 in Kensington Gardens and McGill, 9 in Kensington Park, and 5 in Rose Park and Toorak Gardens. So it's fabulous that we've got such a great uptake now, that with all the promotion and marketing that the administration have done, and I believe some of the arborists around town who've promoted this, we've still got applications coming in, so we need some more funds. So the administration have recommended that we ask for another $35,000 to keep us going to the end of the financial year. So hopefully you'll support this.
Councillor Dawes, you seconding?
Second, I'll reserve my right, Mayor.
Councillor Hubel?
Look, I think this is great. I, irk a little bit at the idea of just kind of piecemealing projects topping up the piggy bank, but this is something I am a big fan of. So a little bit torn, but obviously I will support this motion. But look, it's great that this is working, and from a financial point of view, we do want to have some stability in this. We don't want to be piecemealing, funding for something like this. We want to have it set, and obviously it's going to change year to year, tree to tree, the funding that is required. So I'm sure that's something that will just level itself out in due course. So yeah, supportive, but just kind of noting that we are just topping up, and that's something we don't want to get in the habit of doing as a rule.
Councillor Wood.
Yes, thank you, Worship. I do support this because just in the last week or so, a resident has telephoned me he and his wife's concern about a neighbour's tree that is sort of leaning at a 45-degree angle over their house. So there's an absolute opportunity for some help from council, whether it's an arborist giving them some advice or being able to prune appropriately, just to remove their anxiety of the neighbour next door. And so yes, I do support this because there are needs out there in the community re our significant and regulated trees, and particularly if they're eucalypts dropping limbs.
So go back to you, Councillor Davey.
Thank you very much for your comments and support. This is an investment. It's an investment in our remaining significant and regulated trees, so they're our big trees. And it does help, as Councillor Wilkins has said, residents to look after and ensure the safety of their trees. It helps. We've had a lot of storm damage with a couple of ripper storms through recently. And one of the other examples I was given, which is really heartening to see, was from a couple who bought a home and found they had a beautiful big eucalyptus at the end of their garden on a reasonable sized block, but it had ivy growing all the way through it, and it was just beyond their scope to do this on their own, so they needed an arborist to help them. And the before and after photos are fantastic. We were able to just give them a bit of help to save the tree, because otherwise it would have died, and we've now got this beautiful healthy tree with all the ivy removed. So this is an investment in our remaining tree canopy, significant tree canopy, and hopefully you'll support it. Thank you.
Put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Last one is Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. This report relates to the Eastern Regional Alliance, which is made up, I think, of councils across the Eastern region, from Prospect to Norwood to Campbelltown to Burnside and Unley. Thank you. And I'm not sure what we're doing. We used to get regular reports. I don't know what strategic targets they've got, what plans, but it's terms of reference, I think, are there to improve the services and livability of all the councils working collectively using their knowledge and skills of the 6 councils. And I remember it was in terms of environmental sustainability, waste management, and those sort of things. Since we're coming up to the budget, whether we need any, additional investments to be made, there's a lot of issues that I think we could perhaps possibly be doing more on in terms of waste management and recycling initiatives. So I just thought it would be really good for us to receive a report which gives us an update about this and whether there's anything we can do, plus so that we know what's going on. So hopefully you'll support it.
Seek a seconder. Councillor Harvey, do you wish to speak?
I reserve my right, thank you.
Councillor Wilkins?
I will support that. That's all I was going to do.
Councillor Cornish?
Just a question, and it might be to the mover. Would this be something in a CEO's report, or do you see it as a standalone report?
Councillor Dawes? Oh, you want to answer? Oh, she was. I thought that wouldn't happen until the end. Yeah, that can't actually. Can't until the end. Right. Councillor Dawes?
Yes, I have a question, Mayor. I'm just trying to remember, do we get an annual report from ERA, or is it depending on when you meet? I remember it is referred in your Mayor's report that you've met. And I remember there was a strategic document, but I can't remember the timeline of when that was presented to Council.
Through Madam Mayor, I actually can't recall when the board reported back, but what I can share is the CEO, the ERA CEOs group, is currently putting together a new draft strategic plan for the consideration of the mayors. So I certainly have no issue with this report, except if I report right now, it may become redundant very quickly because they're about to produce a new strategic plan. I'm happy to work with it, but just so you're aware of that.
Councillor Jones?
Look, I'm going to speak against this. Look, I don't know what ERA's current strategic targets are, and frankly, I don't care. We're in East Waste, we're in ERA Water, God help us. We're in EHAR. We're cooperating in everything we need to cooperate, as far as I can tell. So, look, I've got no interest in yet another bureaucracy, so I'll be voting no.
Councillor Davey?
Just to clarify, if I may, when's the strategic plan going to be updated, and is there a current one that you've got goals and targets you're achieving?
Yep. So through Madam Mayor, there certainly is a current plan, and there has been a report done against that some months ago, so it should be a fairly simple exercise to provide a historical report. The current strategic plan we're working on, we've just engaged a consultant to put that together for us, so it's still in its embryonic phase, so I don't have a time frame off the top of my head to provide, but I'm certainly happy to report on the current plan and to give you some level of insight, and it will pull on some of the subsidiary actions that we work with. And I'm happy to make a commitment that when we get the new strategic plan, I'll present it to Council as a matter of course anyway, on top of this motion.
Councillor Dawes?
Yes, look, I'm a bit like Councillor Corniston. I think I have to agree with Councillor Jones, which is unusual. But yeah, I think he hit the nail on the head. But I'm also with Councillor Davey here that from our point, we can always learn from others, you know, but I'm just wondering whether we lie this on the table or something. I love the CEO's response about subsidiaries because that's been one of my main concerns, and I'm glad you're going to be looking at that from that strategic document. But you know, I'm just thinking that it probably would be better if we don't move this motion tonight. We hold it in abeyance until we receive what you're going to send us very shortly, in the next couple of months. But I guess I'm making commentary as I'm going, but I think I have to vote against it based on those reasons.
Councillor Court.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I'm similar to Councillor Dawes right now. But I think I actually might vote for this motion, and that's just primarily because in doing research to one of the other agenda items today, I was reading another council's agenda, and in it they were talking about the East Regions Alliance Councils and the City of Tea Tree Gully Electricity Procurement Project, and which apparently is being head up by our council, which I didn't quite kind of know about, and maybe I'd like to know a bit more about it. I know East Region Alliance isn't a legal group. It's just in terms of there's no formalities about it in terms of reporting back to councils, and there's no, councils aren't in control of it like a regional subsidiary. It's not, that formed in that way. But I think maybe a report on some of the projects might be okay. So I'm kind of leaning to support for the motion to ask for a bit more information about where it is, if that's, yeah.
I'll just say we had a meeting where we had a presentation about the procurement process for electricity. No decisions were made. It was a general conversation. It took up most of the meeting at the last one, and it's really, we moved a motion in support of the concept, but no decisions were made because we haven't gone that far yet. So, if and when we do get to a point where we would have to come back, we would all have to return to our own councils for advice. Councillor Turn.
Just a quick question. What does it cost Burnside to belong to the ERA group?
Through Madam Mayor, I don't have the financial statements in front of me. I'll have to take that on notice and provide you with a figure.
Councillor Turner, can you turn the microphone off, please? Okay. I'll return to Councillor Davey.
Thank you. I'll just summarise quickly. I think this is an important group. It was set up to be quite an important collaborative group particularly to counter some criticism that there were too many little councils all doing their own thing and not enough collaboration between councils, even though we do, as has been pointed out, have some very active subsidiaries which do a lot of good work. But I think there are projects being done. I think a standalone report to update us on these, because we haven't had one for a while, where they're at, what it costs us, because if we're incurring costs and they're getting consultants, I think we need to know. And I didn't realise the mayors were involved in it as well. I thought it was the CEOs who were in the group. So just to update, because the mayor seemed to indicate that I didn't know who that was, what group. It's just an update report, and then we could have another one down the track which will clarify what's going on, and then another one in perhaps 6 months or whenever the new strategic plans develop. The other thing I couldn't find was anything on our website at all, because that's what, when someone mentioned it, I turned to our website and there was nothing on there. So it would be, well, it wasn't obvious, sorry. So, yeah, well, I couldn't find it, so I'm giving you feedback. So I think I'd welcome a report, so hopefully others will support me.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Before I close the meeting, I just wish to convey our condolences to Councillor Jennings on the loss of his father, Dr. Rhys Jennings, who was still practising in his medical practice at Plympton. He went to Norwood High School. He was a councillor and mayor of West Torrens in the 70s, and the bikeway, part of the bikeway walkway that runs in through the city of West Torrens is named after him. It's called the Rhys Jennings bikeway. Sorry, bikeway. I can see where you get the bikes from. So our sincerest sympathies to you and your family, Councillor Jennings. And I close the meeting at 9:59.